if you want to learn how to plot a novel like a pantser, let's go. Hello, this is Plevan here, and I got an idea about 3 weeks ago, especially when I was really trying to start my novel, and it got into a point where I got in so bad of a writer block that I decided I'm gonna be using a book that I've bought 6 months ago and see where that takes me. And as I got more and more involved with my plotting, I realized it's pretty easy and it's better to do so. Of course, me being a pantser, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be outlining my novel in a professional way, or that I'm gonna be outlining a novel into a state that is gonna take me months and months before I'm gonna even start writing my novel. I'm already writing my novel, but as I'm writing my novel, I'm also outlining to learn more about my characters, to learn more about the setting, to learn more about the antagonist and why are they dragging a conflict onto the protagonist. You need to know as much as possible. It's like you need to be in their head almost. The things you'll be needing is outlining your novel workbook and something where you can take your notes, unless you prefer using your computer. And let's just start by saying that you will need some sort of stick notes where you can highlight which chapters of the workbook is a must and which parts of the workbook might be a good idea. And of course, color code it if you don't have stick notes that are already color coded. And I decided that the most important chapters of the workbook is page 17, the 2-sentence premises. That's the first chapter. The second one is the inciting and key events, starting on page 58. How to write a backstory on page 61. Character interview, starting on page 68. Freehand interview, starting on page 78. Personality profiling, starting on page 81. Minor characters, starting on page 87. Now, there are other stuff which I might do on a later on, but this is more the setting, and at the moment I want to get to know the characters as they're more important. I have also chosen something which might be a good idea, which we can do later on. The first one is pre-outline questions, starting on page 25, and likable characters checklist, page 85. Once you have everything that you need, we can start. I'm going to read you 2 examples as per the book. This is from Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It is a very popular author, and one of my favourite stories of all time. Orphan gypsy Heathcliff, he is the protagonist, grows up to love his adopted sister, objective, Kathy, and that's the situation. But when Kathy, she's the opponent, marries her wealthy neighbour, a disaster, Heathcliff sets in motion a terrible vengeance that will pit him against everyone he knows. The conflict. It is very simple, maximum 1 or 2 sentences, but you can do more. You can do half a page, it's whatever you feel that will help you learn about your storyline. Another one is from Star Wars: A New Hope, directed by George Lucas. Restless farm boy situation. Luke Skywalker, protagonist, wants nothing more than to leave home and become a starfighter pilot so he can live up to his mysterious father, objective. But when his aunt and uncle are murdered, disaster, after purchasing renegade droids, Luke must free the droid's beautiful owner and discover a way to stop conflict, the evil empire, opponent, and its apocalyptic Death Star. Once you're ready, this is how I've been writing it. I don't know if you can see it. A color code is my best friend because its readability is better for me. And I'm going to be using my current novel to show you how I've been doing it. The first question is asking you, who is your protagonist? Who is your main kind of character? Someone who you're going to be hearing most of all the characters in the book. So I've put Jarovid is my protagonist. You can put in a brackets all his other names, what he represents, and etc. I've put Slavic god of fertility, sexuality, vegetation, and springtime. So you need to know who is your protagonist before you can move on with the story, because he or she is going to be, or they are going to be, the most important character in your book. They are going to become someone who your readers love, adore, at times hate. Therefore, you need to establish who that person is before you can start even one word in your novel, short story, etc. Is your protagonist ordinary or extraordinary? I've put extraordinary just because I'm writing a fantasy book, but extraordinary person can represent someone who also saves people, or someone who might not have obvious flaws, although everyone has flaws, or someone from a fantasy book. For example, Jarovid has a lot of flaws, but he's extraordinary because he has extraordinary powers. What is his situation at the beginning of the story? Jarovid never wants a soulmate again and is happy to lose his immortality. That's what I've put, because that's the situation at the beginning of the story. He is someone who is depressed, but at the same time happy for the outcome that is awaiting him, in something inevitable. What is his personal condition at the beginning? So, as I've said, due to his situation, he entered deep depression and melancholy. That was something inevitable, and another force is going to force him to lose all that. And how is it going to be changed for the better or for worse by the protagonist himself or by the antagonist force? Now, I did not answer this question because I yet don't know. And same with you, unless it's something important, you can skip questions that you don't know the answer to and come back to them as you progress with your outlining or writing your novel. Or if you're like me, you're going to be outlining and writing chapter by chapter, and then finding out more about your characters, finding out more about the story, finding out more about the settings and etc. Is protagonist's situation ordinary or extraordinary? Well, as it's a fantasy book, I think it's extraordinary because no one that I know has his kind of situation, although a lot of people can relate to him one way or another. What is the protagonist's objective? If you don't know what the objective is, you can look on the examples, and I figured out is what's the main reason why he does what he does and why he progresses the way he does in the story. So I put heal the mortar word from the new STI. And you're gonna find out, of course, what that is the more you progress with reading the book. Who or what is the main opponent? Rhea, goddess of motherhood and fertility. Her objective is that she hates how the world has become, full of sin and etc. Although that's quite ridiculous considering she's Greek. What early disaster will befall the protagonist and force him out of his normal world and into the main conflict? It took me quite a while to think of it, but you can skip this question if you don't yet know. There is no right or wrong way to write a novel as long as you finish it. That's my rule. As long as you write. It doesn't matter if you outline or not. I'm just here to help you of what I've learned. And I've put escape of Titans, which forced him to once again have a soulmate, or they will not have a chance to beat the new illness. What conflict will result from the hero's reaction to the disaster? I've put once all the sexual gods seem strong enough, the Titans up their power slowly, spreading the Titanic sect until a war is brewing, and all mortals/immortals they could gather are awaiting on former Slavic territory. Indeed, the Slavic territory is weak until united once again, and because they're in Greece, they are going to be waiting on borders of Bulgaria and Macedonia, who are also belonging to the former Slavic countries. What is the logical flow of cause and effect that will allow this conflict to continue throughout the story? And just to be clear, the cause means why it happened and effect means what happened. The cause is the Titan escaped their prison and straight away started spreading a new STI in the mortar world. That's the cause. Effect, upon this revelation, Jarovit is forced to take a mortar soulmate once again, although knowing she might never love him. And another cause, while sexual gods are getting stronger, the Titans are spreading the Titanic sect, gathering quite the following. And the last effect, upon realization, the sexual gods are at their strongest, ready to fight back. The Titans are ready to start a war and gather their following on borders of Bulgaria and Macedonia. Focus of the story. Jarovit wants to get rid of the disease and does not care about the circumstances or consequences, which is quite the opposite of how he acts at the beginning of the first chapter because of his melancholy and his depression. And now that you done all these questions, you are ready to move on to the final premise sentence. And I wrote, Jared is content without a soulmate who can never love him back and would turn mortal and died soon. But Titan has escaped their prison and are spreading a new disease through the mortal world. The soulmate turns out to be the right one, and soon he is back to his strength. But with all sexual gods strong again, the Titan Rhea is upping her defense through the mortal/immortal Greeks who follow the Titanic sect. They are gathering outside the former Slavic territory, outside of Macedonia and Bulgaria's borders. They're ready to start a war, which could cost millions of lives. Now, of course, you can add what the ending is going to be like and etc., but I don't even know what the ending is. But this is as far as I can go. I mean, you can write it as some sort of a summary, even, really. It doesn't have to be exactly what the two-sentence premise is asking you to do, because as you can see, my final premise sentence was a lot more than 2 sentences. But as long as it allows you to move forward with your story, nothing is right or wrong. And I cannot highlight this enough. And honestly, I never thought that something like this is going to be easy, as in outlining a novel. But I realized it's absolutely easy, and the ideas are just flowing and they're not stopping. And I think that's the most important thing. This might not be the right thing for you, but honestly, everyone should give it a try. But this is the end of the episode, and I hope you're going to be back for more next week. Thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely Sunday. Bye.